Hello, Jennifer.
Hi.
Just checking to see if you're on.
Yeah.
Well, if you can hear me, it's a pleasure to have you here on this
I
podcast.
can hear ya.
I'm glad. I know you're there somewhere. Just a matter of connecting. But it's so nice to have you here, so that like we actually get to see each other, because I've seen you on my posts. I've seen a lot of your likes and a lot of your hearts and all these great things. Now finally we get to connect. Okay, let's see if we have something here. Jenifer, okay. Oh, wait a second. Maybe we'll try this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was the one that was the problem. I'm so sorry. Okay, it was on my end, not yours. All right. So how are you?
I'm good.
Okay. So Jenifer, do you is it possible to put a video with this chat, or would you prefer going without?
I don't mind.
Okay. All right. Okay. And what do we have here? Okay, so while I'm waiting for the video, hey, so you're from, is it Nebraska?
Yep.
All right. So, wow, what's it like out your way? What's the weather like right now?
It's cold.
Yes.
And supposed to snow today.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, we sure have plenty of snow here. Yeah, our snow had melted considerably, but now it's come back with cold weather. So once we have your connection on video, we're gonna start with this, because I'm so excited to have you here, and this is something brand new for me, something I'm starting off, because as you got that email or that message, I'm looking to expand what I'm doing, and if we can create awareness throughout the world for epilepsy. And there are so many subjects we can touch on this.
Yeah.
Yes, as you would know. So while we're waiting for your connection, for your video, you might be asking, Jen, so how would you like to be addressed? Is it Jen or Jenifer?
Jenifer.
Jenifer? Okay. So Jenifer, and your last name is pronounced, is it Irons?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jenifer Irons, cool. So how long have you been living with epilepsy for?
Since I was 1.
Oh, so you know nothing but.
I was 1 year old, actually 60s before my first birthday, I was diagnosed.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Huh. That's crazy. And And that's how many years ago?
That's been 45 years.
Okay, so you and I are actually kind of the same category. So I was diagnosed maybe when I was 4 or 5 years old. However, there were so many things happening since infancy. So is that how this happened to you as well? Was that how was it discovered?
My mom and dad noticed something different and rushed me to the hospital, and they did tests on me, and the neurologist, the pediatric neurologist, did
Mhm.
a EEG on me and diagnosed me.
Right, from an early age.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
I was in the hospital for 6 days
Wow.
until
Okay.
they got them stopped.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's just crazy. What's so were you ever told what kind of procedures they had taken to discover what you had?
No,
No. Yeah, because I know back, if you go back 40 years, like things have changed so much in the medical field. In 40 years?
yeah,
Absolutely. Hmm. Yeah, because I kind of had similar things when I was growing up. So when I was in my infancy, uh, story that was told to me was that what I did was that my fever started climbing, and my temperature was just wasn't stopping. And at the time, so they ended up bringing me to the hospital, not knowing what was going on. And years later, it was told that that might have been what triggered off the epilepsy. So, which high fever turned into a convulsion, and it went on from there. So, but it again, just like yourself. That was before I was a year old. So I've been living with this for over 50 years. So yeah, I get it. So what what is it that you experienced through your epilepsy, Jenifer?
well, now I've been seizure free over 13 years.
Okay.
I went to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and they found the right combination of medicines to stop them.
Wow. Seriously, for 13 years.
Yep.
Wow. Well, congratulations for that, because you're
Thanks.
very fortunate, as you know and understand. So do you get any symptoms at all?
No,
Nothing. So no auras, nothing that would even that would significate a trigger.
no.
Wow. So it's awesome that you're able to live your life like everyone else does. That they're, so do you work?
No, I got
Okay.
put on disability when I was 18 by the pediatric neurologist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. And you've been on disability since.
Yep,
Okay. Huh. Wow.
because I can't go off my medicines due to my seizure record.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how extensive was this for you prior to 13 years ago? How bad were your seizures? What were you experiencing?
Were really bad. I'd have the grand mal ones,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd
Wow.
have them about 4 to 6 weeks apart.
Oh, okay. Huh. So Never knew when they'd come on?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Because I know that with a lot of people that I've spoken with, that so a lot of people have triggers. A lot of people know, they understand when something's going to happen, whether the trigger can be in the form of an aura or something that they've done. Yeah. So and you had nothing. That must have been devastating for you. And just really not knowing when it's going to happen and hit you.
And I had a seizure at school in 2nd grade. And from there up, the kids made fun of me. My mom pulled me out of school in 10th grade.
Oh, because of that situation.
Yep.
Because of the kids?
Getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And the teachers would bully me just like the kids did.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So in the 10th grade, so were you able to finish high school?
Nope.
Okay. So wow. Huh. And maybe so 20, no, maybe 25 years later. And there you go. Wow. So you never know what you're going to encounter. Hmm. So these grand malls, how would they hit you?
I would just faint and start jerking
Right.
and bite my tongue and throw my left shoulder out of joint.
Oh. So your left shoulder is like I'm listening to what you're saying. Is it always the left shoulder?
Yep.
Oh, so your seizures would, I guess, so you'd flop on one side or do something?
I don't know, because I never knew when they were coming.
Mm-hmm. And they're quite frequent by what you're saying. Wow.
And my mom and dad rushed me to the hospital when I first started throwing it out of joint.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor told my mom she's going to have trouble with it later in life. About, I think I was 37, and it felt like in the joint, in the left shoulder joint,
Mm-hmm. Right.
like the bones rubbing up against each other.
Ooh.
And went to the orthopedic doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and he diagnosed me with osteoarthritis and the cartilage 100% gone and the spur and joint bad.
Really? Wow.
It was 2015. They did replacement surgery on me.
Right. Okay. Wow. So how about after the seizures? What were your symptoms then? Were you? So I know what I've experienced, but I'm curious to see what you've experienced after the seizures. Were you tired? Were you exhausted?
I was exhausted
Okay.
after them.
Right.
I would sleep most of the day.
Uh-huh.
And of
That's
course, I wouldn't eat because my tongue was sore.
uh-huh.
I'd only
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah. So you slept for most of the day.
Yep.
Wow. And once the next day came around, were you back to normal?
It'd take me about a week or two to get back to normal again.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so wasn't just so getting a seizure for you wasn't just having a seizure and then resuming the next day. So this would take a toll on 2 weeks' time.
Yep.
Wow. And that's a common thing with the grand mal seizures with epilepsy, because there's so many people out there that don't understand that. And have you ever experienced others who around you who couldn't understand, like once your seizure is done, come on, just and they kind of thought it's time to get back on with your life, but you just can't, and they don't understand that. Did you experience that?
Yeah.
You did.
With the teachers
Okay. Yes.
and other kids at school.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't understand epilepsy.
Yeah. So that's so I touched a little bit on auras a while ago. I mentioned that, and you experienced nothing of that,
Nope.
really. So, because I know that their auras come in so many different forms, and the fact that you didn't might have been a good thing, because it's decided these things are not pleasant. However, if you didn't get if nothing would trigger or would signal a seizure, that's the part that must have been devastating. And what could you have been doing? Are there moments where you noticed that you had more seizures than others, where you had maybe a certain activities?
Well, if I would run the mile and pee,
Mm-hmm.
come home exhausted, and I get home and seizure would come on.
Elements.
I just get home off the bus and into the house, and seizure happened.
Oh, yes, right. Okay. So without notice.
Nope.
Wow.
Without notice.
Okay. So nothing really, like even activities, you just didn't know.
Nope.
So just for those who will be listening to this here, what has epilepsy limited you from doing?
Well, getting a GED and working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the GG, what is that?
It's where you can finish high school in a college.
All
But
right.
I can even pass that.
Okay. Really, that's devastating on its own. Now it's how about are you able to drive?
Yeah.
Oh, great. So they were able to get you under control, and somebody did allow you to get your driver's license, which is great.
The neurologist did.
Oh yes. Okay. How long ago did you get your driver's license?
It was in 2007.
Uh-huh. So so that's basically almost after your last seizure.
Yep.
So that's actually quick. Good for you.
I went 3 months without them, and they let me get them.
Wow. That's amazing. Huh, good for you.
That was the limit of amount of time that had to be seizure free in Nebraska to get them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Huh. So if I'm going to touch on stigma because stigma related to epilepsy, because there's so much connotation to about mental health and how it affects us and how people perceive us as going through epilepsy. Do you encounter people with stigma? Like you still, because we've mentioned about your school, because people, you mentioned that your classmates were cruel. And so there's a reason for stigma to be had. And stigma comes from ignorance, so not really knowing what is going on, or misinformation. We've heard misinformation out there so much about epilepsy that it's false, and those around us don't understand that, and they think that the information they get is actually correct. And do you find yourself involved in circles sometimes where people don't understand what epilepsy is all about?
Not now,
No.
because these adults understand it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I recall myself when I was younger, when those around me just couldn't understand what was going on, and they take a step back. If I'd have a seizure, they just took a step back, not knowing what was going on. This is something I talk about a lot in some of my presentations. When I was 5 years old, when I first started school, my mother told me, says, Dan, you're going to start school. And I was excited. And she told me that I was going to meet up with a lot of friends. And she was right. So I got to school, and the very first day, and everything went on. And as I got involved, or got into class, the school is like a chatterbox. My classmates, they were all talking about their brothers, their sisters, their mommies and daddies, and sharing their stories. And I was doing the same. But on the second day when I got to school, it was a game changer. Because as I got there, I started the same way as I did the previous day, but all of a sudden, that's when I got my first seizure at school. And my initial seizures were in the form of a blank stare or blinking. And something that I wasn't aware of. I got to school and started to chat like I did the previous day, and all of a sudden I stopped. And there I was. And not being aware of this, once I came around and came to, my classmates looked at me, and they had taken a step back, and I had no idea why. So, and they didn't understand. They did not understand what was going on. And that went from kindergarten into all the grades as I went up. So I understand about the stigma and your surroundings, how they can perceive what's going on, because they just don't know. You still have people out there thinking that if you put something while somebody's having a seizure, put something in someone's mouth to prevent the tongue from being swallowed is the right thing to do. And it's not.
No.
No. And have you ever heard of putting this, not only something in the mouth, but a spoon? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was actually common knowledge from back many years ago. And it was false. You can damage so much by doing that. And because someone with epilepsy going through a grand mal seizure, the strength, and even someone having a grasp on something will just not let go. So can you imagine a spoon in your mouth, break all your teeth. Did you ever
Yeah.
have that? Did you ever have that happen to you, where someone
No,
stuck something in your mouth?
my mom would stick a tongue. Oh,
Hmm.
I can't think what they're called. Doctors use them to look down the throat.
All right, the wooden piece of so like a piece of wood, like a huge
Like
popsicle
a
stick.
tongue.
Sorry.
They're called tongue, and I
Oh,
can't think the other word.
okay. Hmm. Yeah, it's but I'm glad that more and more people are getting away from that, and nobody should stick anything in somebody's mouth, especially a finger, because someone's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Right. So I've I know I've experienced auras and still do, and because my auras were in a form of a fear, so almost like anxiety or a panic attack, and very fearful. And I would experience on my left side goosebumps crawling up my leg and through my arm, and if you look at my face, you could see a line on the whole one side where you see the lumps, but the right side was fine. Then my saliva would build, and I felt it in my stomach. Everything would tighten up, and I felt scared, frightened. And if it got worse, then the right side would start getting covered with goosebumps. And it was just devastating. But these were my auras, and that was happening since I was 5 years old, along with seeing things that didn't belong. So I would hallucinate. And I recall seeing my mother when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, waking up in the middle of the night, frightened again with what I just mentioned. And she would show up, not knowing what was going on. And when she would show up, I'd tell her, as my hands would start growing and feel heavy, really, really heavy. And as a 5, 6, 7 year old, that was devastating. And she'd come in and try to soothe my pain. But then even her face, I recall my mother's face, her head start swelling. Absolutely makes no sense, but it did. But that's what I saw. That's what I experienced for a number of years. So, and as I said, these auras come in so many different forms. And I think I heard something back, something about it. It's called an ectol fear, something that I had heard. So, Jenifer, do you have any siblings?
One brother and one sister,
All right. Are they older or younger?
both older.
Oh, okay. So you were the baby.
Yep.
Ah, okay. Baby of three. And I was the
Yep.
reverse, where I have kind of the same scenario. So you had a brother and a sister, and I had a brother and sister as well, but I was the eldest. And uh, my my heart goes to my mom. Actually, both my parents, but my mom was in there. She she took on so much to take care of me, as you probably did as well with your mom, your dad.
every time my mom would hear a noise in my room,
Right?
she'd come running down the hall from their bedroom to
Hmm.
check on me. And it was
Okay.
usually when I would have a seizure at night.
Hmm. Well, so those night seizures, were they grand mal as well?
Yep.
Wow. What would she do? How would she cope with this?
She would, and besides throwing my arm out of joint,
Hmm.
I would also lose control of my bladder.
Okay.
And she'd put me on the floor after I had a seizure
Hmm.
and change the sheets and then put me back on bed, and she'd sleep by my bed all night until
Okay.
I quit having them.
Hmm. So you're touching on your bladder releasing, and this is something I never really did bring up. This would be a first for me because when I was up until about 12 years old, I'd be frightened to fall asleep because if I'd fall asleep, my bladder would release, and I had until this day I don't know if this was related to the epilepsy, but it happened until I was 12. So and you're talking to me. You tell me that your seizures would release your bladder.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Huh.
If it
Did
was full, it'd empty while having one.
Okay. And that on its own must have been uh, devastating and actually embarrassing afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes. And did you? So if that happened, did it happen when you were in school?
No,
No. Okay. Or was that later on in years?
I was in second grade when the one at school happened.
Right.
And that one, I just stared.
Oh, okay. You stared. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay. So you're familiar with what I was saying about myself staring when I was younger.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. So there's commonality there. Well,
And my second grade teacher knew what seizures were.
right. Mm-hmm.
Took me to the front of the class, tried to explain to the others what was happening to me,
Oh.
and called my mom to come and get me.
Mm-hmm.
But
She
from
took
then
you.
on, they made fun of me.
Wow. My heart goes to you with that. That's so I understand the feeling of being singled out. But the teacher bringing you in the front of the class
Just to explain what was going on with me.
while you were having a seizure.
Yeah,
Wow. Huh. What was is this like a show and tell?
I don't know.
Yeah, really. That's the first thing that comes to mind because I've never heard of someone doing that. Wow. So we're in school. We're gonna learn something. Today's subject is epilepsy. Huh. I'm okay. I don't know what to say. Huh. But yeah, people do things differently, or they have their own ways of dealing with this. And at the here's the thing about when you were looking at people who don't understand, a lot of us will take it take it to heart, and because we get it all the time. Now, if if we understand that someone else on the other side does not understand, then we can get a different perspective and feeling of the other person not really knowing, or even if they think they understand, they might not, because their information is not correct. So wow, it's a it's a crazy world out there, Jenifer. So it so all this being said, how did you cope with this, physically or even mentally?
It really got to me to where I was getting bullied and
Mhm,
wanted to change schools, but my mom wouldn't let me.
mhm.
She thought the same thing would happen in that school.
Okay. So you never did change schools.
Nope.
All right. So do you feel if you change schools that it would have continued?
I think it probably would have eased up.
Mhm. Okay. So today, knowing, understanding what you've gone through, what would be your message to others going through this, or even others who are taking care of those who are going through this crazy condition? Would you have a message for them? Something that could that could be constructive, or be uplifting. What could you tell someone who's going through epilepsy now about something that you have a lot of knowledge, because you're in your 40s now, and you have a whole lot of knowledge about epilepsy, what it does, what it's done to you, how it made you feel, and the wisdom that you've gained. Is there something that you could, just one, if you extract one piece of it to tell someone else?
If they see a person having a seizure,
Mhm.
don't bully them or make fun of them.
Right. Wow, that's powerful right there. And in your area, do you find that those around you are more compassionate, they're more understanding compared to what they were maybe 30 years ago?
Yes.
Yes. So so in your experience, we've evolved in that sense. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay. That's great. Yeah. So I'm actually seeing the same thing where I'm at. So I live in Canada, and back 40 years ago, 50 years ago, nobody understood. And which is why I ended up growing up on my own, basically because I took a step back. I was tired of getting hurt. So relating to what you were saying, getting bullied and not getting hurt physically, but the things that were being said, and those who would distance themselves from me, and it was kind of hurting. So, and I stopped approaching everybody. I started living kind of in the bubble. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And today is a different story. I speak with my own children, and they're more compassionate towards people who have conditions, and which is actually very fortunate. I know that there's still a lot of things going on out there, and part of it might be towards the upbringing of people. How are the parents? But no, thanks for sharing that tip. So no, don't bully them, and then don't be part of the stigma. And if you don't know, if you do some research, and that's not directed to you, Jenifer, but I'm talking to the audience in general. So I thank you very, very much for your time, for the time on this chat, and let's make this constructive and make it a positive thing. So give some people out there awareness that epilepsy is still out there, and it is very real, and the feelings that people get, and we're talking about grand mal
Yeah.
seizures. Those feelings are not just limited to a certain period of time when you're on the ground shaking, but afterwards it lasts. And living with epilepsy is constant. Because till this day, I still have those feelings of fear. And it's drastic. But in my condition, what I've done, I've mastered a way how to eliminate those fears. Because once I get I understand that the fear is coming, I know where it's coming from. So I internalize it. I feel it. I know that it's not real. And as I get that feeling within me, all of a sudden that fear dissipates and goes away. Because that fear, these auras are also labeled as partial seizures. And it's amazing that partial seizures can dissipate by training the mind. So again, telling the audience that epilepsy is always with you. So it's not just an episode of 10, 15 minutes, then you're good for another month. It's constant. Because I recall when I was, do you recall stuff when you were younger? When you were going through the seizures, and even after the seizures were done, did you feel different, like physically? Did you have any feelings?
No.
No?
Just was tired.
Okay. How about your memory?
When I got to 4th grade, I had to be put in the resource room for extra help.
Okay. Wow. And were you able to move on from that?
And I was in the resource room from 4th grade up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's so there you go. So it had taken a toll on how you felt, because it's not only the epilepsy, it's the medication that we take. and you put it all together, it's got to do something. So my memory was, I have a hard time with my memory because of it. So I understand what you're saying. So I was in second grade when the teacher, I don't know if she was trying to single me out, but myself and someone else were dropped from second grade to first grade for a period of time until they brought us back to second grade. So I don't know. I don't know if it was just a scare, but again, so many things were happening back 40, 50 years ago that are not happening today. But in some cases, they still are. Some things are still really back in time, and they've never evolved. And I was asking about if you had any feelings, any internal feelings. I grew up in my younger days. I recall telling my mom and telling those around me that my body felt like it was vibrating all the time. My stomach was always hard. And inside of myself was like it was jittery, and I thought that was normal because it was there 24 hours a day. So you're talking about being tired. So that on its own would get anybody tired. So wow, it's something. It's epilepsy is, you never know, because we're each and every one of us who have lived with a condition all experience something unique to ourselves, which is something it's something different. So those on the outside will never understand that. But what we've experienced has created who we are and has brought the knowledge and wisdom that we have. So today you live a life, you've got your driver's license.
Yep.
Are you married?
No, I'm
Okay.
single.
All right. So it's great that you can actually move on. You're able to, you're doing things that would not have been possible 15, 20 years ago, which is awesome. So once again, I thank you for this call, Jenifer. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to jump on here and chat with me. So enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And do you have any final words?
No.
All right. Okay, Jenifer. So you have yourself a great day. And what, as from epilepsy here to epilepsy there. Thank you very much. My heart goes to you. Okay. Okay. Bye now.
Bye.